Welcome to the Anchor Your Retirement podcast. I'm your host, Barbara Gullen, hanging out with my buddy and pal, Tony Shore. How you doing, Tony?
Barb, I am great. It's great to be here. Good to see you. I'm excited. We have a great topic, very helpful for our listeners and viewers today. But before we get into that,
Yeah.
I just have to ask, I have not talked to you since Thanksgiving.
Uh-huh.
And I want to tell you, Barb, Thanksgiving, I'm with my family, the whole thing. But who am I thinking about? Barb Gullen.
Why?
Because I thought to myself, you know what? I sure hope Barb Gullen is overeating today. I hope she gets over full on Thanksgiving like I am.
I
That was
actually,
my hope for you, that you would get too much to eat at Thanksgiving.
I don't
Isn't
think
that
I
the
did.
tradition?
I don't think I did. We
Yeah.
paced it out very
Good.
nicely.
That's actually good. I was being somewhat sarcastic.
Hmm.
Thanksgiving, I usually end up overeating a lot. And this year, I've been dieting, I'm down a
Hmm.
few pounds, but
Good for you.
I weighed myself. I'm down a couple more pounds. That's good. Slow but steady. I'm doing good.
Yes.
But I behaved myself pretty well over Thanksgiving. I did have a second helping of my sister-in-law's garlic mashed potatoes because they were phenomenal. But
Oh, they
other than that, I didn't overeat. I didn't feel sick.
Yeah.
Usually I overeat. Now, if we made the turkey and the food, I would have ended up overeating because there would have been more leftovers, more food
Well,
around.
and you would have been snacking while you were
Yes.
fixing.
Yeah.
So I actually contributed some this year. My fiance is a baker and
Yeah.
is a food scientist and is very meticulous about everything.
But you
And
actually cooked or
I
baked this
actually
year?
I actually did some cooking and some baking this year. I made a sweet potato casserole
How'd that turn
that
out?
my really, really
Did
good.
it have the toasted marshmallows on top?
No, no,
Okay,
no, no.
that's a Midwest thing maybe.
It is a Midwest thing, but no, it actually has a topping on it that is pecans and brown
Oh.
sugar and
Oh, okay.
coconut.
Whoa, wow, that sounds
Yeah,
delicious.
it is. It
Yeah,
is.
I bet
And
that was
then
great.
I made some traditional cookies that my mom has baked and her mom baked
Wow,
for decades. Um, so, because we do
right.
pumpkin pie, and then Eric always makes blueberry pie for a
Oh, I
Thanksgiving dessert.
love blueberry pie, yeah.
Yep,
We always
makes
have
the filling
pumpkin and
from
apple,
scratch. Yes.
and I'm the only one that really absolutely loves blueberry pie, but, so we usually don't get that, but, the apple pie we had, I forget where it was from, but it was so good. No one homemade it, but it was from
Mm,
a really good local bakery that they
okay.
got it from. Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, like, top end.
Oh,
Yeah,
nice.
my wife's brother and his wife, it was good. So,
Yes,
enough about that. We're headed into
yes.
the holidays. We've
Oh,
already
you
had
don't wanna hear about the
Thanksgiving.
homemade lasagna?
Oh, there was homemade lasagna
There was
too?
homemade lasagna.
Who made
Yes.
that?
Who do you think, Tony?
Eric.
Of For those of you that don't have video and who are just listening to this, I am making the meanest face I've ever
I
made,
know.
Tony Shore.
I'm not gonna yeah,
Yeah, no, we were
if it was
supposed to
a joke.
do Thanksgiving up in Omaha on
Yeah, I remember
Saturday,
that.
and the weather did not cooperate.
Yeah, we didn't make it down that direction either from where we're at because of the weather this
Yeah.
year, so, yeah.
So then we were gonna Zoom in, and then everybody up north ended up being sick, so we didn't even Zoom in, and I'm like,
Wow.
"We're not making another turkey, let's have lasagna." So
Oh, wow. You made your famous lasagna.
yep, made lasagna from scratch, so
Nice. Oh, yum. I bet
yeah.
that was good too.
Yeah, well, my maiden name ends in a vowel,
I
but
know.
enough
Yep.
about food.
Yep.
Let's talk about what everybody needs to do at the end of the year financially to get ready for the next year.
Yeah. Where do you begin? What's first on your list? I know every financial planner and person has a list. Here's what you need to be doing. I'm
Mhm.
curious to see what's on your list, Barb.
The first thing that I always think of is making sure that you've made all the charitable contributions or donations that you want to make so that you can deduct it from your income when you file your tax return.
Smart. And
So
And maybe if you get RMDs are probably that kind of ties into required minimum
It
distributions if you're
does.
of that age.
It does. Those are called qualified charitable distributions. Hopefully, if that's something you were wanting to do, your advisor spoke to you earlier in the year than now because
Sure.
we are at the tail end of everything, and a lot of the custodians are going to shift to a best effort model here
Yeah, it might
in
be
a
too
few.
late for that. In fact, you did talk about that, mention it a couple of shows ago, a few
We
shows
did.
ago. So,
We did.
yeah, I
But
just
it's
thought I'd bring
something.
that up because anytime I hear charitable contributions, I think, oh,
Mhm.
yeah, donate to charity to save
Right.
money on this year's taxes, but it's a little late if you wanted to make a qualified charitable distribution directly from an IRA to a nonprofit like your church or a charitable
Right,
organization. Yeah.
but it's definitely something to put on the list of things to do at the beginning of 2026 so that you don't miss out again
Yes, that's
if
good.
you
That's
haven't
smart.
gotten there.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean, a lot of year-end financial stuff probably does relate to taxes, right? Like making
It
charitable
does.
contributions.
It does, and trying to simplify it for you or whoever your tax preparer is. But, there are other things that we wanna look at as we come to the end of the year financially. Um, this is a time of year where people tend to you talked about not overeating while you were at your Thanksgiving. Let's talk about not overspending while we're out holiday shopping.
Ah, that's a good end of the year tip right there.
Yes.
I think a lot of people are guilty of that. I read in the paper from a couple of news sources, AP,
Mhm.
Associated Press, and then there was another one, maybe it was Bloomberg News, that the numbers so far show that this year's Black Friday and Cyber Monday were way above last year's spending.
That's
So,
interesting
isn't it?
considering what tariffs have done
I
and
know.
that
I'm
the
shocked,
economy is a little bit more on the bubble than it has been.
but people are
Um,
spending money they don't have because also at record levels is credit card debt. So I think they
Precisely.
go hand in hand, right?
And then probably also at record levels, if I had to guess, I think we're seeing an uptick in default rates on credit cards as well,
That's right. I did just read that as well. Yeah, the default rate on credit card bills has skyrocketed. It's like
which
way over the last few years.
which takes us to the second point I wanna make for this year-end checklist. I want you guys to decide that you are going to put together a spending plan and figure out what makes the most sense to try to sock away a little bit more money. Next week, we're going to be talking about the increases in retirement plan contribution limits and that kind of
Ah,
stuff.
good.
But, that needs a podcast all unto itself. But if you're trying to figure out how much you're spending or don't know how much you're spending, I always tell clients to pull 6 months if you're ambitious, 12 months of bank statements and credit card statements. If you're gonna do it old school and make a spreadsheet, if not, there's several apps that are available that'll give you a breakdown for your spending categories. You'll be able to see the good, the bad, the ugly. How much are you eating out? How many subscriptions do you have to Netflix that you don't know about? Um,
I've found
all
a
of
few of those.
those things. But if you wanna know where you're going, the first step is to look at where you've been. So if we take 6 months or ideally 12 months worth of that data and plug it into an app or plug it into an old-fashioned spreadsheet, um, then you start to get an idea of what your spending really is, and you can see where you might want to increase savings or where you realize that you might have had a certain amount budgeted, let's say for utilities, and utilities have gone up this year. So you probably need to make an adjustment to that and take a look at the big picture before you start narrowing it down and trying to make that all make sense.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that. What was that phrase you used just now? I'm trying to you said, In order to see where you're
In
going,
order to know where you're going, sometimes you need to look at where you've been.
look at that. Words of wisdom. Wow, that's good. That's good, Barb. I love it. That's
Thank
why you have the job you do and I have the job I do. Yeah.
But Tony, we couldn't do this without you.
Yeah, I mean, I'm the eye candy of the show. I get that. You're the
Absolutely.
brains. You're the brains.
Absolutely. Yes.
Sometimes sometimes it's the other way around, but mostly, yeah, yeah. You're both. You're both. I'm just along for the ride. I'm just riding on your coattails at this point, Barb. But that's a really good one and a good point. What else do people need to be thinking about before the end of the year?
Um, for me, this is always a time of reflection. And even though we're talking about a financial checklist, look, it's always a great time to review those 1 year plans, 5 year plans. Um, get together with your financial advisor if they haven't reached out to you and go over what those long-term plans are for the future.
Hmm.
Things change. People end up retiring earlier than they want to. There have been a lot of jobs that have been eliminated over the last year, and it's getting a little bit more difficult to be able to replace some of those jobs. AI is eliminating some positions in certain professions like computer programming, where people went from having really great jobs to having trouble finding jobs
Hmm.
in certain areas. So, it's always good to take a look at what those long-term goals are and make sure that you are on track to meeting those long-term goals, keeping it all in perspective. And when you go back and you're evaluating that spending, it might be time, if you've got older kids that you're still supporting financially, to let them know that that's going to be tapering or ending completely so that you can start shoring up your own financial future instead of supporting the immediate need now.
Hmm.
I mean, I'm just as guilty of this as anybody else. You're a mom, you want to help your kids out. Sometimes the best thing you can do to help your kids is to tell them no and give them an opportunity to solve the problem for themselves, because you're not going to be there forever.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. You're not. And you need to make sure that you don't leave your loved ones in a bad situation, right?
You do. You
Yeah.
do.
Yeah. I would agree
Now,
with that.
and then last but not least, I want you to go to annualcreditreport.com and pull a copy of all of your credit reports.
Ah, okay. Why do we need to do that?
We want to check and make sure that there isn't anything on there that's a discrepancy. You want to look for discrepancies, make sure that there isn't anything on there that shouldn't be on there. It's also a good time to make sure that your accounts haven't been compromised. I know a lot of credit cards offer some sort of complimentary credit monitoring or some sort of alert if anybody tries to access your credit report, and will let you know if there's been an inquiry made. So, my advice to my clients is to pull a copy of all three of those credit reports on an annual basis. And as an extra layer of protection, if you haven't already done this, freeze your credit reports, because
Mm,
that will keep anybody from being able to open any unauthorized credit.
I like that. Yeah. Yeah, in fact, I had to do that with my dad as he got older and not
Yeah.
cognitively able. People were starting to take advantage of him, so I have a power of attorney for his finances, so
Hmm.
and I told him I'm gonna do this so they can't open credit in your name. So,
Right.
yeah, it's super helpful. Yeah.
Yes. Protecting yourself is the best thing you can do. It's a whole lot easier to stop somebody from opening up an unauthorized account than it is to have to go through the mess of having to file a police report and deal with all of the fraud. We did a podcast about that a few weeks ago too.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. And boy, you have to watch out for that. And
Yes,
probably a big one before the year end. And of course, it may be getting late now, but you should always have a review before the new year of your finances or at the
right.
beginning of the next year
Right.
with a trusted financial services professional like yourself.
I agree with that wholeheartedly. Depending on how much you have saved and how close you are to retirement, meeting once a year might be enough, or you might be right on the cusp of pulling the trigger and need to meet with your advisor a little bit more frequently as you lead up to that transition from earning to taking
Yeah, there you go.
from those accounts. Yeah.
Yeah, that's huge. Well, I'll tell you what, Barb, great show today. So,
Thanks.
if people have questions about what they should be doing before the end of the year, or
Mhm.
need a second opinion on where they're at, or a first opinion, how can they get a hold of you and your team there to set up that no charge, no obligation consultation?
You can always go to our website, which is bgwealthmanagement.com, or you can call our offices at area code 913-553-6222. We'll set up an appointment with either myself or another one of the qualified fiduciaries in the office and help you figure out if you are on track to the retirement that you've envisioned.
There you go. Well, Barb, great show today. A lot of great information packed in here. It's always good
Thanks,
to have
Tony.
it's good to have a year-end financial checklist. Listeners and viewers, please pick up the phone, give Barb and her team a call there at BG Wealth Advisory. It's 913-553-6222. And that does it for today's episode of Anchor Your Retirement with our host, Barb Gullen.
We'll see you soon.